The confluence of our IP, of open source projects, of exposing this, people have said, well, by open sourcing ZFS, by open sourcing dtrace, they're going to show up in other places.
That's wonderful.
Hope so.
Yeah. Is that good?
No, that's very good. I mean, we have to really separate this out. The qualities for developers and anything that's part of infrastructure, to use Lussig's words, are part of this commons, and that it will be open, because that's the way you get participation, you build communities. And essentially, I view it as the ZFS community or the dtrace community, which we get to collect and intersect those into Solaris as the Solaris distribution as a delivery vehicle of that to our customers. Because the other side is applications don't run on source. They run on binaries, which are the maintained, integrity, tested, regressed, verified compilations of those sources. And it's really there when you're operating the system or trying to get service level out of them. That's the valuable point, not the fact that there was an open source substrate or something that led into it.
So all the people who are looking at new storage mechanisms built on ZFS, or system diagnostics and inspection built on top of dtrace, that's going to come back to the Solaris community. It's going to come back to the Sun community.
Will act as a collecting point that then can deliver those innovations and those ideas out to people in a very predictable and robust operating way.
But let's also be clear. If and when dtrace and ZFS and a variety of the other innovation that is today in the open Solaris community, as it wends its way into the BSD community and into the OS 10 community and all the other communities that are building out there, it actually puts a fair amount of pressure on us, because if the fact that ZFS and dtrace show up in another operating system is sufficient to cause customers to say, I need to leave Solaris, then we didn't do a good job. We should always do, in my view, two things. One, do our absolute best to propagate the availability of that technology. Why? Because it lowers the barrier to entry. And for Sun, our business is a derivative of how hard it is to get on the net. And the harder it is, the less business we're going to do. So may 1,000 flowers bloom. Please join the network. Secondarily, our business is to earn the right to serve folks with binary distributions, the systems infrastructure, and all the stuff you pay for as opposed to play with. And, again, if we can't do that, and that's why I think it's so interesting watching what just happened with Oracle in the marketplace, because certainly there are some vendors who I think have been trying to package products and then deliver support for things that they don't really build. And so their ability to really express value for that is more around the brand they associate with it. And that's good. That's in some sense defensible, but it's not really what developers are after. Developers want the innovation, the demonstrated roadmaps, the ability to kind of drive forward on a platform that they both contribute to as well as are a recipient of.
And then people who deploy, just to key off of what Oracle is doing, people do deploy to binaries. And so what Oracle is doing is, we'll see, right? But people ought to recognize it is a different distribution. It's a different stack to qualify to than Red Hat, because every time you do these assemblies, the art of that and decisions about, when does a patch happen, or how do you deal with sometimes even the order of loading or the preference around things, that changes it. And so we get in this duality, which is that the developer world is most attracted, and we want to stimulate and participate with the leading magnet of innovation, and of course applying a lot of that ourselves, and that's ZFS and dtrace out. At the same time, when it finally comes down to you got to run the stuff and make it work, there's that predictability of what does that distribution look like? And I think there's more clarity around that with Solaris and what's been happening recently. And I think we're tremendously encouraged by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the adoption numbers we've seen have been staggering. Speaking of unpredictable, none of us would have predicted.
That's right.
6 million licenses in the first year and a half.
But consistency over time is a good thing, because that's a bet you can make, and it's a bet you can collect.
So long as it doesn't equate to stagnation.
Yeah.
Because mainframes are awfully consistent, but it's a tough thing for any Web 2.0 company or a startup to say, hey, I'm going to start my business on that platform. And we've got to make sure we're always at the forefront. And there's this interesting duality that occurs. I think with the Oracle Unbreakable Linux activity, the marketplace is going to have an interesting choice. There will be those who actually care about the source of the patch and the brand of the patch. There will be those that don't. and the market's going to tease apart a little bit. And I think there's no one customer for anything in the world. And what we know is the customers we're really driving after are the folks who care about the integrity of the system, the performance of the system, and in the long run, the innovation in the system.
And Solaris 10 is a great example. I mean, it's, I think, fabulous amounts of innovation. And we keep these contracts of binary compatibility as well. I think there is a sort of architected line that you can run here, between sort of the cathedral and bazaar view of the world. It's like, yeah, we believe in a lot of people participating, but there ought to be a zoning department or something, right? And you should do a little bit of urban planning and make the structure safe and the streets still work, and So
that's Greg's next title is Executive VP of Urban Planning and Technology as well. But
right.
But there's something, again, if you've been to cities, you've spent some time in Boston, you know what happens when your urban planning is not done or
it's
happens.
Driven by cows.
It's driven by cows, and then the tourists can't find their way around, and it's a very inhospitable city.
Right. But, again, I think the developer marketplace is a pretty broad one. There are some folks who want the playground, who want to just live in a world that isn't necessarily where you have to worry about, do all the paths line up, can I provide a map? The good news about our market is it is expanding at a massive clip. And with the number of new engineers coming into the marketplace from all across the world, whether it's in the US or South and Central America or East Asia or Western Europe, there are different flavors of customers emerging, different flavors of developers, different types of applications. And again, what we want, our business is responsive to the number of people who can participate online. So the more we can do to reach out to those edges of the network, the better off our business is in the long run.
So OSs are important, and there will be choice.
No,
and
that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Greg and Jonathan. Again, I'm your host, Hal Stern, and you've been watching a special video edition of Innovating at Sun.